Hi, this is Ramirez. You're watching the Ramirez Gear review, and this is episode number 3. Today we're going to be talking about the Thermionic Culture Vulture, which is a stereo valve distortion unit. So actually also billed as a compressor. Now, I first came across one of these while I was working with Steve Mack in his studio. Steve Mack's a notorious gear whore, and one of the things he had in there was this unit. I'd heard about them before, but I'd never actually got to use it, and it turned out that we literally put everything through this thing. It's that good. The thing about this is that it's actually quite a unique product in terms of the fact that there's nothing else quite like it on the market. There is a plugin now that's just come out. Sound Toys have released version 4 of their Sound Toys suite, and in that is the plugin called the Decapitator. I have real trouble saying that for some reason. The Decapitator, and that actually has a couple of settings on there which attempt to emulate the pentode and the triode setting in the Culture Vulture. It was actually the first unit that Thermionic Culture made. I think it's about 12-15 years ago, I'm not sure, I could be wrong. It's actually got some famous users. Liam Howlett is probably one of the most famous ones from the Prodigy, and I was recently working in a studio, Nelly Hooper's studio, and we were mixing down, myself and Mark Knight, we were mixing down a couple of the Underworld singles in there, and it was used extensively on that. Loads of people use it. Loads of people use it to the extent that it became, this is the bass unit. Now when I say bass unit, it's the basic model. There is, the next unit is the mastering version. The reason why there's a mastering version is because mastering engineers realised that the whole mix put through this thing can sound that good that they made a dedicated mastering version. And the only difference between the two is that this doesn't have balanced ins and outs, whereas the mastering version does, to lower the noise in the signal chain. There are other versions of this, and there are special edition versions. I think they've made 5 different special edition versions, and they make a run of 99 each. They are, I think, literally twice as expensive as the original one. This is about 1,200 quid. The special edition versions can go up to 2,000, sometimes more. And there is quite a big difference between the two. Namely, there are more distortion types. We can actually split the unit into 2 because it's a stereo unit. So we'll talk about the actual controls there. You can see it's quite simple. What we've got is the drive, bias, distortion type, output level, filter. You can filter 9K and 6K, take off some of the harsh frequencies that it might produce, and you've got an overdrive setting which basically boosts the input by about 20 decibels. I think there are about 3 valve stages. The input stage is a valve stage, and the output stage is a valve stage, and I think the bias that increases the voltage to the valve on the output stage. So basically at its 0 setting it's got maximum voltage, and you take it up and it gives it less voltage. Interesting to note that the VU meters, you can see the VU meters changing there, that the VU meters don't give you a level, it gives you the amount of which it's actually affecting the signal, judging by the bias input. Okay, the output level has got its own valve stage, which can be overdriven as well as the input stage, and the overdrive is quite self-explanatory. That adds extra drive to the drive you can already add. So if you want to put, interesting, it goes up to number 11, which is quite cool, very Spinal Tap. There we go. Now there are 3 different types of distortion. You've got the triode setting, which is T. Triode gives you the even harmonics, which is a nice warmer, less harsh sounding tone. And then you've got pentode 1 and pentode 2. Pentode is the uneven harmonics, which is basically a harsher tone, so if you want more of a buzzy kind of sound, this is where the filter can come in handy, because you can filter off some of the buzz and the harshness that it actually introduces. And then the third one, something I can't quite get my head around just yet, is pentode 2, and that gives you a combination of even and uneven harmonics, and mix them 2 together. You use the bias control to decrease or increase the amount of voltage going to the valve, and then that causes interesting effects. One of the side effects of that is that you can get gating effects, which actually, for instance, if you put a drum loop through there, the transients will cause a gating effect because only the transients will come through. And the more you increase the bias control, the more pronounced that effect comes, which I'll come to show you in a little bit. Okay, so that's the unit. It's stereo, so you can use it, but it's not linked. So if you do want to use it in stereo, you have to manually change the settings yourself, both at the same time. Whereas if you just want to use it in mono, you can do. So you've effectively got 2 units mono, 1 unit stereo. I'm just going to play a couple of sounds through it now. We'll start with the bass guitar. So that's the bypassed sound. What we'll do is we'll put the triode setting on first. This is basic warmth. So here's some basic. That's basic warmth. We'll increase the drive setting using the triode valve. Oops. Turn that down. We've got some distortion coming through there. Digital distortion. So you can hear we increase the drive setting and we get that nice warm type of distortion. Now if I move over to the pentode setting, which is the uneven harmonics, you can hear how much harsher it is there. Right through to there. Let me turn the output level down. Now this is where the filter is going to come in, because we can take off some of that nasty high frequency if you want to. Now we've got the overdrive setting here. Now if we increase the bias, again we're turning down the voltage to the valves, so we can get different tones with the bias setting. Turn down the drive, because we've got the overdrive on, all the way up to completely mashed. Then we've got pentode 2. Pentode 2 basically, let's put the drive here. Pentode 2, we can, if we increase the bias with pentode 2, you can hear the effect. I'll turn this up. You can hear how the bias affects the sound. It kind of reacts more to the transients, is how it's been explained. So the pentode 2 apparently works very well with the bias. You turn the bias back, you can hear the different range of tones out of it. Excuse me. Now the beautiful thing about it is that it's not a preset unit. You can't necessarily just press a button and it kind of works in the way you want it to work. There's no like, oh, there's a nice switch, or there's a make it warmer switch, or there's a this switch or anything. You've really just got to get in there and do it. And the beauty about this is, as with all hardware, is you can just because there's only a few knobs, you can just get in there and start experimenting in the way you want. You want that bit of analog warmth added to your mix. Even if you want to put your full mix through it, you can do that. The range of tones, the sound, the analog depth that you can give your recordings with this thing is absolutely amazing. So in my opinion, it's worth the £1,200. Get yourself saving up for a long time like I did. Get yourself out and buy one.